page 96, Tumbling. At the top of the page, they're talking about modulation. Modulating. It's a big fancy word. Big deal. It simply means, remember I talked about key signatures and keys and scales and all that. So for instance, if I'm in the key of C major, no sharps or flats, and then later on I want to go into a different key, well, I will sort of blend or move into that key gently, and that's called modulating. It happens all the time in music, and that's really about all I have to say. Unless you want to get into composing and all that, then you need a lot more than my videos to help you out on that stuff. But you can read what they say up there and have fun with it. If there is a way to have fun with it, I don't know. I didn't read it. I want to talk about tumbling. That's what we're going to do. Now, at the beginning of this, let's take a look at these notes in the first measure. We have, starts out with a G and a B. I'm holding them all down because that's a chord. It's a broken chord. You could also call it an arpeggiated chord. Remember arpeggiated chords? If you don't, please go back and watch that video again. Right hand has the same notes, they're just an octave above it. Keep that in mind. In the next measure, we're going to go to here. What we did is we took this chord and we inverted it. Invert means to turn it over. So I took the bottom note in each hand, which is the G. I put it on the top. So in the left hand is, that's the second measure. Third measure, I'm going to invert it again. I'm going to take the bottom note, put it on top. So in the left hand, the B goes on top. Right hand, same thing. Isn't that great? And for the last measure of the first line, I'm going to invert it again. So I'm going to take the D and put it on top. So the F is the bottom. So that whole first line is one chord and all of its inversions. So I go here, here, isn't this fun? Root, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. We can have three inversions because we got four notes. You can always have one less inversion than the note. Well, look at the second line. Starts out okay with the C. They're giving you the note name, C. And now we're changing key signatures. They've added a sharp. Suddenly we're here. I'm going to hold all the notes down on these eighth notes because it's a chord. This cool? Now I'm going to invert it again, except I'm going to go down instead of up. So I take the top note and I put it on the bottom. So here. And again, take the top note, put it on a... One more time. And I've inverted that chord, the D7 chord, on all of its inversions. Going down to the second line, second measure. Remember the primary chords or the principal chords. You got a 1, a 4, a 5, 7, and a 1. Those are the primary or principal chords. Well, in these measures, that's the first measure of the second line, second measure of the third line. I'll get there eventually. Those are primary chords because in the first measure of the second line, the C chord is the one chord in C major. We're in C major. The G7 is the 5-7 chord in C major. You're taking all these notes together. And then one. So it's 5, it's 1, 5, 7, 1. We didn't use the 4 chord. That's fine, don't have to. These are fine. We could have, they could have stuck a 4 chord in there, it'd be just fine. However, they didn't. And then the second measure of the third line is the same thing. In G major, the G's the 1 chord, the D7's the 5-7 chord, and then 1. Now, we got double bars. This is the end of the second measure, third line. taking the sharp away, they put natural signs to erase the sharp. Then we're going back into C major. So we got up here again, this is the same chord as the first line, except we're up here, and now we're going to invert it going down. I don't really feel I need to explain or show that. I've explained it twice already. Then the last two measures, they just have a chord sequence, which is a sequence of chords. Duh. It's just a bunch of chords after each other. Don't know why, but they did it, and it's not pianistic. I don't know why they did it. You'll have to ask them. What do they say? It's a unique cadence at the end. Well, okay, it sure is. A cadence is something you put at the end. It's like a final thought. It ends the piece. A lot of pieces or section will end with a cadence. It just, these others, that's a cadence. Go look it up. Google cadence and find out what it all means. There's nothing tricky about the rhythm here. Eighth notes and quarter notes and half notes and all that. It's 4/4 time. Let's try this out slowly together. Now, the fingering wise, I disagree with their fingering on the first measure on each hand, because these chords in the first measure is fingered this way. If you're going to finger the chord that way, then finger this arpeggiated chord that way. Use fourth finger on the B. And then the right hand, fourth finger on the D, not third. In the next measure, they got it right. Fourth finger. In the third measure, that's actually how it's fingered, with third finger. So go ahead and use third finger there. And then in the last measure, it's correct. Now, look at the second measure of the second line. They're telling you to use fourth finger. See, fourth finger on the A, and that's correct. Don't use third. And next measure is the third measure of the second line. They're telling you to use fourth finger. On the right hand, that's correct. In the left hand, I disagree. I say use fourth finger on the F sharp. It's a bit of a stretch, but this is still an interval of a third. And generally speaking, when you have an interval of a third or less, in most cases, you will use the 5 and 4 fingers, not 5 and 3. There's exceptions to that. There's always exceptions, but in most cases. And then in the last measure of the second line, the fingering is fine. They're telling you fourth finger. Now, technically, the first measure of the third line, you really should use fourth finger, because that's still the fingering. But if you want to go ahead and use third finger because of the black note, knock yourself out. Okay, let's go down to third line, third measure. Fingering's fine in the right hand, but the left hand, no. Use fourth finger on the B. Just like it was at the beginning. And the second measure, in the right hand, use fourth finger on the D. And then the left hand, they have that marked correctly there with fourth finger. Last line, they're correct, I believe, with the fourth finger on the B. And for the left hand, go ahead and use third in this case. It just works out. You could do that, but go ahead and use third. I won't say anything if you won't. And again, the second measure, go ahead and use third finger on the G if you want. And then I'll leave it up to you. Look at the last three measures of the piece. Starting with the eighth notes, the right hand's fine. But now in the left hand, they're telling you to go 5, 4, 3, 2, so you can put one on the C and connect the notes. As far as I'm concerned, once we get to the chords, there's no more legato. as that's just not pianistic. Having a series of chords like this doesn't work. So as far as I'm concerned, on that third to the last measure in the left hand, you want to just finger that normal 5, 4, 2, 1. Then you can use 1 again. You don't have to connect them. Just you could try the 1, 2, and then 3 here if you wanted to connect them. Last two measures in the right hand, the fingering. It's a 1, 5, 1, 5, 2, 5, 1, 4. I like this, it's good. But the last measure, I recommend a 2, 3. It allows me to connect the top note at least. And then a 1, 4. And then for the half note, a 1, 2, 5. It lets me play the top note legato that way. Let's try this out slowly. I put the metronome on 60. It's beating quarter notes, so those eighth notes are 1 and 2 and 1. This is a 4/4 time, yeah. 3 and 4. Got to count to 4 now. So the left hand's here, right hand's here. No pedal. We'll just do it this way. See the phrasing? A little break between the phrases is fine. 1, 2, ready and go and.